So if you'll go ahead and we're going to flip through the slides. So got an email message last week, Friday, 8 different stories. These are the headlines. Compass adds agents as revenue falls, losses rise in Q3. Understand that Compass has never made a profit. Keep going. Redfin, keep going. There you go. Redfin sees losses soar in Q3 as it winds down its iBuying program. Now people that laughed at Zillow last year for nixing their iBuyer program are saying, maybe they were prophetic. Keep going. After cutting Q3 losses, Loan Depot has its sights set on breaking even. Keep going, that's the lender. Mortgage giants Fannie and Freddie batten down the hatches in Q3. Keep going. Blend announces more layoffs as cumulative losses surpass $1 billion since 2012. So it's only $100 million a year. Keep going. Fathom raises transaction fees, boosts incentives amid the Q3 loss. So they were not profitable, just another competitor. WeWork, commercial real estate, closes 40 locations across the US, otherwise promising Q3. And then finally, how are you showing gratitude this year? One of these things doesn't belong, but I wanted to kind of talk about this piece of it. Guys, we live and work in a difficult industry, but what a fantastic industry to be in. If you're just getting started, put on your running shoes and run, work. This is a wonderful industry. You hear all the negatives and, we're going terrible. How are interest rates right now, Stephen? They're good. Not great. They're good. Historically, where are we? We still below the typical? What it was over, historically, we're doing okay. Guys, we work in a great industry. And I want you to have that perspective. If you shift your mindset, and we keep talking about it, that's what this is about. Come from a place of gratitude. Come from a place where you're going to help solve problems. You're a fixer. It'll make a difference in your business. Or you can say, oh yeah, the market's horrible. It's going to be so hard. We won't be able to make a living. You'll be right. So would encourage you guys, go out and kill it, because we best industry in the world. This is more fun. You bless more lives, make more money. Anyway, that's all I got.
Okay. So if you have a notebook, please pull it out. You're going to want to write these down. I also want this to be a conversation. And we're going to talk about 4 steps to amplify your business and life in 2023. Now, first, what does amplify mean to you? What does that word mean? Make it bigger? Great. What else? Jordan?
That sounds like making it bigger without putting in more effort necessarily.
Making it bigger without putting in more effort. It's interesting. Is that kind of what a microphone does? Right? I have kind of a quiet voice. It amplifies my voice. Right? Great. Anything else? What I'd share is that 2023 is going to be a unique opportunity. I think it's the opportunity of the next decade for those who are really paying attention to this time. And for me, amplify means to raise the volume. It means to turn up the heat, right? Now, in this time, it is going to require more work, more effort for a similar reward or slightly lower reward than you've gotten the past couple of years. But what I want you to be aware of is that kind of what Jordan actually pointed out is in the coming years, 2024 and beyond, the actions that you take in 2023 are going to amplify the results you get in the future years. Does that make sense? So you think about this in terms of who was born out of 2008? Any agents in here who kind of got their start right around that time? Dan? I know Clay has shared his experience as well. The Clay Winder of today in a lot of regards, happened because of a lot of stuff that happened in 2008. So just be aware of this opportunity for you, your family, your wealth in this time. And that's what we're going to go through. So the 4 steps to amplify your business in life in 2023. Number 1 is to define your standards. So at the goal setting retreat, for those who came on Friday, we go through a very conscious process of setting goals, a very intentional process. And one of those pieces is clarifying what the goal is. Can anybody who came to the retreat clarify what was the next piece that we had you focus on after you define the goal? What do you define? The 3 steps, or what else? Habits, right? The 3 habits. What are the habits that are going to support the goal? This is the reality. Standards are the specific set of actions you must take to achieve your goal. Okay, standards are the specific set of actions that you're going to take to set and achieve your goal. Standards are the most valuable when they are precise. So getting very clear about the habits you're going to deploy to achieve whatever your goal is. So I want you to think about, if we're just to boil it into 2 categories, your life overall, what's the big goal that you have? And then in your business or your career, what's the top priority that you're focused on? Most people have big goals and no plans, or very inconcise plans. So that's the one encouragement that I'd give you is get very clear about the standards, the habits that you're going to deploy in achieving those specific goals. There's this idea that unfortunately many people never get beyond dreaming about their goals because they don't want to pay the price for reaching the goal. I promise it's so much easier if you decide that you're willing to pay the price up front. We've talked about this the last couple of weeks, right? Is don't wait until the end of the year or subconsciously make the decision that price tag of hitting this specific goal is not worth it to me. Decide that up front. If your goal is to make X amount of dollars, ask yourself, what price would I have to pay to do that, especially in this coming market or in this market that we're in? And you have to tell yourself, am I willing to do that over the next 12 months, yes or no? Just decide up front. If it's no, lower the goal. If the answer is yes, we've got a plan, right? Define the habits. This is the idea of don't underfund and over-expect. What does that mean as you read that? And not work for it? Colby, what bank do you bank with? America First? Do you bank with Chase? Okay. But you don't have like a savings account or checking account with them? Okay. If I asked you to go to Chase right now and pull out $50,000, how confident are you that you'd be able to do that in the next 30 minutes? Wouldn't be able to, right? Like think of this in terms of any of you, same scenario. Think of a bank that you do not bank with. You don't have funds deposited with them. Would you expect to go pull money out from that bank? No, because you know you haven't funded anything with that bank, right? Your goals are the exact same. You have to be aware that you cannot underfund and over-expect. You can't expect to hit a goal that you're not actively making deposits into over the next year. Okay, so those habits are the deposits on that goal. Does that make sense? This part of standards is life gives us not what we want, it gives us what we're willing to tolerate. So if you actually take some time, I know we live in a fast-paced, busy world. If you actually took the time to look at your financial history over the last 5 years, you didn't get the exact amount of money you wanted, right? A lot of people would say, well, I'd love to have $1 million or whatever the amount is. What you've got over that time period most consistently is your standard. We all have this thermostat we've talked about being programmed, right? If you're programmed at 100 grand, you will always earn roughly around 100 grand. One example of this, what is the statistic on lottery winners that stay rich? Is it high or low? Very low. Why? They've got the money, but they don't got the habits, right? They don't got the mindset. So you have to look at it as, what is your current standard financially? What are you willing to tolerate? You can do this for any category of life. In health, you get what you tolerate. With your relationships, you get what you tolerate. So you've got to actually adjust your standards, not just clarify a goal. Does that make sense? So these two things go hand in hand. It's not define your goals, it's define what standards are going to help you in accomplishment of that thing that you want, okay, in each of these categories. The secret is to constantly review and upgrade your standards, evaluate what you're willing to tolerate and not tolerate. So you've actually got to spend time getting clear about that. And then goals actually just become the byproduct. It's a very simple equation. The goals are the byproduct of how you approach your standards. Any thoughts or questions or clarification on this? Riley, I'm going to pick on you for a sec. How have you seen this play out? Let's just make this, tangible for a sec. How has this played out with your, because I know you've been focused at times in your life around health. So how does this relate when it comes to just like your health goals?
Well, I like how you said the secret is to constantly review and upgrade your standards because, especially with health and fitness, it's very much a measured approach. Like you can't just say, you could affirm I'm going to be healthy and yeah, they'll probably do something for you just because your mind's powerful, but it's not going to change your body or give you like a, specific weight, or maybe you have a certain performance goal. So for me, it was like, I would look at my training log every single week and kind of assess where I wanted to go. When I was in my workouts, I would track my my meals all the time and have a certain amount of water every day, certain vitamin schedule. And I will just use myself as a personal example. I'm not as big as I once was. I was like 220 last year and I'm like 185 now. So mostly a conscious choice, but I definitely have not been as intentional as I was back then. I don't necessarily want to be right now, but so I'm a good example of like someone who had their standards very high in a certain aspect of their life and was very regimented and then chose to go a different direction. Physically, my body's a byproduct of that. So.
Thank you for sharing. And I love what you highlighted though, as far as the regimen that you had or the habits, right? The specific down to how much water you're drinking, the vitamins you're taking, the food that you're eating, right? The types of food that you're eating. Like if you get clear about the habits, the result ends up taking care of itself.
Correct.
Right? Love that. The last piece of this is that even if you fell, you will land at a higher baseline level if you focus on the habits than what most people do. Okay. So step one is just how do you actually more effectively approach your goals? It's focusing on the standards. Number two, 201 your database. Okay. We're hitting different categories here on purpose. This is for your real estate business. And this is in two different lanes. Number one, first, just looking at this, what does it mean? Who wants to take a little stab in the dark? Hunter?
Yeah, so 201, your database means that you have 201 contacts in your command account or whatever CRM you use. They're actually, Keller Williams is doing a big push in 2023. It's going to be cool. They're coming in and giving like code books and stuff to really master your CRM. But I bring that up just because there is a direct correlation. They actually, if anyone was able to participate in CommandCon, there was a direct correlation between agents' GCI and the amount of contacts that they had in their database. And I'll have to share that slide, but it is shocking. The more people you have in your database, the more money you make. And obviously that's not just names, that's emails, like addresses, people that are getting worked at 36 touch, but it is directly correlated with how much money you make.
Yeah. There's a book, you want to write this one down. It's MREA. It's by Gary Keller. Amber, I got you. I saw you type in. You're about to order on Amazon. We've got plenty upstairs. The MREA, though, in all reality, they researched agents making over $1 million a year and found that they all had a very similar approach to building their business. So the two things to look at this is either you don't have a database of 201 names yet, or you've got 400 or 500 or 600 and you need to add 200 over the next year. Okay. Now, this is the way to bulletproof your business in 2023. It's about getting clear about your database. And I want to be very clear on this with you guys today. What is a database? Because it's not just names and phone numbers. In order to actually be able to withdraw the amount of value that you can out of a database, what 4 pieces of information do you need to have? Name, address, phone number, email. Okay. Research shows that you can predict the size of someone's business simply by the size of their database and how often they reach out to everyone in it. You can't make someone buy or sell, but you can position yourself to be top of mind when someone is ready. So this is all about laying the foundation or the framework for the success you're going to be able to tap into, again, 24 through 2027. Like a lot of the results you're going to get in those years are going to be actions or activities that you're putting in 2023. So 201 your database. I'm going to show you 4 or some strategies to being able to grow that effectively and be able to get more transactions in the next 12 months from your database. But the 4 different categories are going to be to maximize success is your phone number, their phone number, email, birthday, and home address. And I'm going to show you a really easy way to get that information, especially right now in this time.
So for us that are a little bit older, I can remember instead of database, you know what people before us did? They had Rolodex. And Rolodex was 3x5 cards. It was the same information. And I recall there was one story, a bunch of them around this, that who was George Bush the first, senior? That was H. Bush, whatever. Okay, when he was in his political career, there was a time he spent as CIA director. They said he was good at 2 things in that regard to his database, his Rolodex. He had the personal name, information, contact of every chief of police, everybody that was part of that, his world for the whole United States. He had them all on a database, a Rolodex, and then he routinely wrote personal letters, made phone calls to all of them on a routine basis. So we look at that and say, oh, well, that sounds a lot like our sphere of influence, calling our contact people. But the message was, even the old people, it's a matter of who you know, how do you know them, what do you know of them, and having them on a drip program to where I want to build this, but I want to contact them. And as I'm contacting them, what is it we talk about besides how are the kids on the card? Oh, hey, how's Marv doing? Did he get accepted to Yale? How's that? It's back and forth. And so here's where I get with this. Sometimes the process of creating can encompass so much. I've seen sales reps my whole life spend all their energy trying to get their stuff into their database. But guess what they never really get around to doing? Just getting out there and making a phone call. Just get out there and knocking on a door and talking to someone, because it's a shiny object that, hey, do I know everything about command? No. But boy, I can keep myself busy looking at videos, and man, I can keep doing this so that I never really have to get to this.
For sure. And Novely, if you want to make a note of that, let's make sure we order Brad some index cards for his Rolodex.
Thank you. I already have some, but
No, and the reality is this is not a plug for command. I just want to be clear about this. This is a plug for getting your database wherever you're going to store it and actively work it, which is Brad's big piece, is you have to engage with that database, which we're going to talk about. Now, the question I have for you is, what percentage of your database has an email and home address and birthday attached to it. Thank you. Does anybody actually know their number?
Yeah, I got it.
Riley?
I'm not happy with the address portion, but I've got, let's see. I think is my numbers 91% phone number, 96% email, but only 33% address. So that's,
90, read those one more time for me.
yeah, 91%, let's see. Yeah, 91% phone number, 96% email, but only 33% address.
Cool. Birthdays? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. One easy, yes, Nobly.
What a perfect time of year to call people and ask for their address so you can send them a Christmas card.
Oh, ninja tip, alert. Two things. This is a plug for Command. I retract what I said 15 seconds ago. In Command, it will actually show you your database health score. So it will actually show you what percentage of those different categories you have for your database. So if you don't have anything, start using that as a function to be able to show you where you can improve. Okay. And the reason why is because this allows you to increase the value delivery you're able to give to somebody over the next 12 months. Okay. You can interact with them in very different ways based off of these different key pieces of information. And we're going to dive into that. But one of those is, and Nobly kind of stole my thunder, but it's all right. One is a strategy. How do you collect? Because this is one of the common conversations I've had is how do you get somebody's address and their birthday and all this other information if you are not super connected with them, right? Or you don't talk to them very consistently. One, that's an aha or an awareness of like stay in better touch with people, right? But here's a very simple strategy. You want to go to postable.com. Postable.com. This makes collecting address, all the information you need, very easy. So this is a text that I send out each year. Jason, or whatever their name is, I hope this year has been great for you and your family. We're about to send out some Christmas cards and we'd love to send you one. Can you take a second to fill this out? You post your postable link. They give you a personal link. It's usually postable.com and then your name at the end. And this is what it looks like. This is what it will pull them to on their phone. First name, last name, email address, phone number, birthday, and address. So how many of those pieces of information do you need in your database? It's the big four. It's the ones that you need, right? And it sends it right into the postable system where you can export it and then import it into whatever database you do use. Okay, super easy way to collect a bunch of addresses at one time. Yeah.
This doesn't distinguish if they're renters or owners. So
No. So this is nothing to do with real estate at all. This is just a free online address book, essentially.
I break that into a different field so that I argue my message a little bit differently to the people who don't own a home versus those that do.
Yeah, and the way that you might do that, Reach is another app you probably want to write down. It's like $5 on the App Store. $5 a month. Reach will allow you to send out mass text messages that are personalized. So it'll put every single person's name at the front. What you would do is you can create groups there. So you can do homeowners and renters if you wanted to segment those lists and blast that out. You can totally do that. You can actually customize to the questions that it does ask. So you can ask them what company they're at. You can ask for their spouse's information, their kids' information, whatever you want. I just go for the big four personally. But you can customize what this form looks like in a very simple, quick manner. And then you're updated every time somebody adds their information to it. Last year, I collected somewhere around 70 people filled this out for me in my database, in my network. So it was the quickest way for me to be able to collect that information. And there's a reason. You have a reason to reach out. Any thoughts or feedback on this, or any other ways you've gone about collecting that information? Cool. Is this simple enough? Shoot them a simple text, get the information you need, because then you're able to engage with them in valuable ways in the year ahead. Okay. Which brings us to step number 3. You have to have a 36 touch. We've talked about this. but this is the year where it's going to reveal who has it and who does not. Like this is going to be the separating factor. So the question is, are you engaging with people in 36 different ways throughout the year? Are you providing that much value to people currently in your database? Or are there gaps? Are there ways that you can improve on delivering value? So on the 36 touch, that's 4 touches are just phone calls, right? So for every quarter, which around the holidays is a perfect time to just call and check in on people. 26 touches are bi-weekly email offerings of some item of value. Now, Command makes that part very easy, where you can do a neighborhood nurture, which is basically a soft CMA on as many people as you want, and you never have, it's set it and forget it. You don't have to do anything once you press the button on it. You do have to have their address and their email in order to start that plan, but then from there on, they will get 12 touches per year automatically forever. Okay, so that makes that part very easy. We talked about the newsletter as well, the UAR newsletter that we write every month that you can use. You can send that out within 5 minutes to your entire database, and you don't have to create anything. So that's another piece to use on those 26 touches for the emails. 2 touches are events. Now, what events do we have access to here at KW? Yep, Fall Festival, Kellerween, and then the Keller Splash, right? The Summerfest. And so make sure to use those to your advantage, or create 2 of your own personalized custom client events. Okay, make sure those are on your calendar. And then the other 4 touches are some sort of promotional direct mail, such as a magnet, calendar, market report, whatever value item you want to deliver to people. Okay. So the fortune is in the follow-up, and the 36 touch is your personal follow-up plan. How are you going to follow up with people throughout the year? Last one, step 4. Is pay attention. Pay attention to the financial opportunity of this time. Okay. 1, realize that money is a game. It's something that can be learned. Would you agree with that? Okay. This is who's played Monopoly or Life or any of those games growing up? Chutes and Ladders. Right? Which one? Risk. Oh, I love that game. It's so fun. The reality is that just like any of those games where there's a set of instructions, right? There's also a set of instructions to getting ahead financially. Now, if any of you have come in contact with people who earned a lot of wealth in 2008 or post 2008, what did they say about that time? They say it was the worst thing that ever happened to them, or was it the best, right? For a lot of people, you hear that it was the worst time in their financial life. And for others, you hear it was the best time for their financial life. What's the difference?
The difference was they were ready to seize the opportunity of really good deals.
Totally.
Same in depression.
Yeah.
People made a lot of money in depression.
Yeah, people were ready to seize the opportunity.
You also have a lot more of the public's mindset that they need a real estate agent. You can't.
So it's not like last year where everybody thinks that they can just sell their home super easy, just put a sign out front and have it sold on the weekend. Yeah, I can get behind that. Yeah. Most of it is that people who pay attention end up being in a position to take advantage of that opportunity. So again, just pay attention. Start subscribing to different wealth newsletters. Start watching YouTube videos around people who are able to talk about ways to prepare yourself financially in this time. And I'll share one of them with you after this step. But money is a game. It can be learned. Start focusing on it. Spend time on it, especially this year. Like more than anything before, I think this is the opportunity for you to be able to financially fast track yourself for the next decade. I really do believe that. One ways to do that is boost your savings. In moments of opportunity, cash is king. Now, in order to do that, you have to cut expenses. Okay, get rid of the fluff. Start being very meticulous around how you're spending money. Okay, hold every dollar accountable, because within the next 6 to 12 months, there are going to be some huge opportunities. Does anybody know how much the stock market's down year over year? It's actually more than that now.
15 to 18%.
It's between 35 to 45%. Crypto, how much is that down? 80%, 80 to 90%, right? And just being aware that that means things are at a discount. A lot of people look at it as what? Financial ruin in this time, right? And there's there's a quote by Warren Buffett. He says, to be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. Do you see a lot of 20-year-olds on Instagram today posting about their wealth right now? We're 6 months ago, right? It's a different story. So pay attention to the news. Dean shared a bunch of articles. How many of those were positive? One that he forged? Just kidding. Yeah, one. Like, that's how you know we're in a good place, actually, from an investment standpoint. Right? So just be aware of that. Focus on what you can control. This is probably the number one key. When it comes to wealth building, focus on what you can control, which is your income producing activities. You actually need to triple down on the activities that cause income to flow into your life in this time. You need to get very clear about how you're spending your time on a daily basis. And one way to do that is ask yourself, is the time I spent today, at the end of the day, is that time I spent, was it an expenditure or was it an investment? Those 7 hours that I spent working, am I going to get a return from them or no? Because there are a lot of activities in real estate that you do not get a return for. Is that true? Can we work for 7 days straight and have no fruit to show for it? Yes. So we have to, on a weekly basis at least, look at our activities and assess, was it actually value that I put out here in my business, or was it fluff? Was it time where I'm not going to get an ROI from that? You have to be very, very focused on income producing activities at this time. This is one piece on, again, the wealth side. Don't blink and miss the market recovery. The Money Guy show is on YouTube. That's one that I do like listening to. And one thing that's interesting is they look at the S&P 500, so which is the conglomerate of the top 500 companies in the country, and what it's done for every bear market since 1950. Okay, since 1950. So a good amount of data here. Time after the market hits the bottom, it's had an average return within 1 month of 14%. Now, here's the thing. Do we know when the bottom is? No, we don't know that, right? Do we know that we're 30 to 50% lower than we were a year ago? Yes, that's the one thing that we know. The average losses in all bear markets since 1950 is negative 35%. So we're somewhere close. That's all we know. Does that make sense? We can't pinpoint the exact place, but we know on an average scale, we're pretty close. Can it still drop a little bit more? Yes, can. And the average length of a recession was 13.8 months. Okay. That's another piece where it's always in retrospect that we're able to pinpoint the exact time of when the recession started. It's kind of hard to pinpoint that when it's actually happening. But we're feeling it, right? And anyways, jumping forward to 24 months after the bottom was a 62% average return. That was the average. This is a little bit different market graph where it shows you, well, that was the average, was a 63% return. What was the high and the low? The lowest was a 42% return. Highest return, 99%. Really interesting. This is one last view or way to look at it. Market returns when the market has gone down by 20%. How has the S&P average returns from the day it enters a bear market territory, again, since 1950? And look at this growth pattern, 14% in 1 year, all the way up to 197% over a 15-year period. So just be aware, are we in a bear market? Are we in a recessionary period? Yes, right? So again, this is showing what the returns were like after all of those bear markets since 1950. So pay attention. It is the time to look for opportunities. The two things you have to have is the awareness to look for opportunities, but two, the capital. So start working on how can I save extra money, right? And put that away for deals that are going to be hitting the market in the next year, both in real estate and stocks. I think a lot of different sectors are going to see some opportunities. Just be in a position to take advantage of that. Okay. Awesome. Any thoughts or questions as we wrap up? These were the top 4 that we just talked about today. Or any ahas? Anything that really struck you in this time?
I just want to chime in. I think the question you ask yourself at the end of the day is super important. Like, was my time today an investment or was it an expenditure? Just because I feel like that's you have to be very accountable to yourself if you ask a question like that.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Thanks, Riley. Rob.
Well, I think you made a strong point about how, people spend all the time putting stuff into the database, but they don't do much with it afterwards here.
Yeah.
And, by breaking this down into baby steps and setting mini goals like that, this week I'm going to do this and this and this, I think it helps get people going a little bit further here because they like to set the big goals, but never create the plan.
Totally. Yep. Thank you. We have one more. Awesome. We've got Pillar to Post as our lunch sponsor today. Go ahead and give Jared a hand.
Thank you. So Pillar to Post, how many of you have been doing real estate for more than 10 years? Okay, so how many of you that have been doing this since the last downturn kind of feel like you're pulling stuff out, dusting things off, like, oh yeah, I remember I used to do this, to, we haven't had to do a lot of that work in the last few years. And so that's one of the things I want to talk about is we are starting to see more listing inspections. So that's especially if you've only been doing real estate for the last couple of years, you're like, what? Why would a seller do an inspection? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and I'm not going to go into it right now to explain, but especially as we get into a buyer market, having the seller have some of that information beforehand puts them in a little bit better position negotiation wise. So it is something that we are starting to see more of. And so just that's another one of those things, dust off, learn more about if you haven't done them. In my experience doing this, so I started doing inspections in 2006. I can't recall a listing inspection that didn't pay for itself in potential negotiation stuff. So we actually had one, I remember, where the seller was ready to spend about 60 grand on a roof, and there was really not a need for a new roof. It was kind of just some other leak and some damage. It was a long story, but basically the $700 listing inspection prevent a $50,000 roof replacement. And so there are lots of things that can help your sellers. I want to, so again, Pillar to Post, the biggest thing is that we have been doing this a while, but we also have teams all over. And so there's a lot of times where we find things, even though I've been doing this long, I'll still get to a house and be like, what on earth am I looking at? And so it's good to be able to have those resources. And so we're constantly reaching out to other Pillar to Post guys and getting that information. So we can be that corner, that person in your corner to answer those questions. Remind you that last week, Meth Mob was here. And so we've been working with them so that if you book an inspection with Pillar to Post and and tell them about the promo that MethMob is doing. They'll pay for a meth test. So you can get a free your clients can get a free meth test with their inspection. So just remember to mention that when they're scheduling, and then we'll take care of it on the back end. Last thing is we, as I've talked to a lot of agents over the last month, as things have started to calm down and agents have more time. So we've been going to lunch and chatting. The biggest thing is that you'll start to notice in this downturn is relationships. And that's kind of what was mostly being talked about is relationships are what matter. And that's kind of what my team, that's what we want to be there is we want to be not just, oh yeah, the guy that did the inspection for my clients, but part of your team as far as helping you out. There's a lot of things that can happen after the inspection. And we're there, even if your client went with someone else or you're on the listing side. I get a lot of agents that are like, hey, the buyers did this inspection. They're requesting this. Does this even make sense? I know Carl isn't here. Carl Spencer, he's called me a number of times of like, is this even a thing? Is this, what's going on? Why is this something? And we can talk through things either to help them out. Cause there's been a few times where it's like, I have no idea what that inspector's calling that out for, or other times of like, yeah, no, that's legit. Okay. Let's explain this to the seller so that they understand that, yeah, this is probably something they need to look at. So let us help you out and kind of be that relationship with you. We're working with lunch. And that's what I was just trying to figure out is what happened with our order, because it came back a lot smaller than what I thought it was. So we have some more sandwiches coming. Not sure how quick they'll get here, but lots of chips, and there's even more up in my office, and cookies. And but there are I don't know, there's 70 or 80 sandwiches. So, but yeah, apologize. We'll stick around, and there should be more showing up any moment now. So we'll see.
Awesome.
Thanks, you guys.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Have an awesome week. Appreciate you all.
Hear that? That's the sound of Applebee's new sizzling skillets. Savory, scrumptious, and starting at just $10.99.
Limited time price, participation, and selection may vary. Tax and gratuity excluded.